So before we get ready to make our Ruthie bag, I want to go over the pieces that you'll need to cut out. So first you're going to need an exterior main panel. Okay, and I'm using contrasting vinyl, so I have two different vinyls. So you could cut it all out of one vinyl, or you can, use a contrast like I'm doing. So my main color is black. So that's my main exterior panel. And then also from the black, I cut two of my top lining pieces. Okay, and then from my exterior, from my contrast exterior, I need two exterior side panels, two of my zipper panel pieces. Okay. Also, I'm choosing to do rolled handles, so I need two pieces for the rolled handles. You could also choose to do the flat straps. That's also in the pattern. So you could cut out them according to the measurements in the pattern if you choose to do the flat straps. So I'm doing rolled handles. I'll need two of these. I'll also need my zipper facing or zipper overlay piece. And then also there's a slip pocket trim piece. So that's for the exterior, okay? For the lining, I'm using waterproof canvas. If you do use cotton, then you will need to interface, okay? But since I'm using waterproof canvas, I don't have any interfacing here. So one main lining piece. You'll need your two side panel pieces. These two pieces are for the zipper pocket, and then this piece is for the slip pocket. Okay, I also want to mention the stabilizers or interfacing that you'll need for the exterior. There, you will need to add Decaville light to the back of your side panels, okay? And there is a pattern piece for that. And then also for your top lining panel, you will need Decaville light, okay? And again, there's a pattern piece for that as well, okay? So that's all the interfacing you will need for your exterior. And then you have your main stabilizer piece. I'm using Peltex. Okay, this is the sew-in Peltex. And then I also put a piece of Decaville Heavy in the base portion of the Peltex. So I get a nice crisp edge when it's folded at where the Decaville meets the Peltex here. So it gives me a nice crisp edge. That's important for the shape of the bag. So this is going to be inserted after you finish putting everything together. So again, I'm using Peltex and Decaville Heavy that's just fused onto the center. Okay, you can also use Craft Tex or any stabilizer of your choice. I wouldn't use foam. It has to be a firm stabilizer. Okay, so that's your pieces. And then for as far as hardware, very minimal hardware for the Ruthie. Okay, you need your main zipper. I'm using zipper tape, so you need your main zipper, your zipper, zipper pocket for your zipper pocket. Also a couple of pulls, zipper pulls. You will need a zipper end for your main zipper. Optional is you can add 2 D-rings for a crossbody strap. If you choose to use a crossbody, I'm not doing a crossbody strap, but if you choose to do one, then you will need 2 D-rings. And then what I didn't put here, I forgot, is you will need your swivel hooks and a strap adjuster. Okay, so just remember that if you're doing a crossbody strap. But otherwise, if you don't, that's optional. I'm not doing a crossbody strap, so I won't need the D-rings or the swivel hooks. And then also optional are purse feet. So you will need 4 purse feet. if you choose to do purse feet. Okay. And since it is a nice flat bottom bag, I'm going to definitely use purse feet. So that's all the materials that you'll need to make your Ruthie bag. Next, I'm going to show you some prep work that you will need to do before you begin sewing. Okay, so before you get started sewing your Ruthie, there is some prep work that needs to be done. Okay, so you're going to need your exterior side panels and your lining side panels and your top lining panels and your main exterior. Okay, so you have to miter the corners on your main exterior, your top lining panel, and your side panels. Okay, and then there's a little bit of folding on this top part of your main side panels, or your lining panels, I'm sorry. So I've done the first exterior side panel. I've already prepped it. So as you can see, so the sides and the top, they get folded in a 1/2 inch, okay? And it makes the it folds in and you don't see the raw edges here, okay? So that's what I've done already on the exterior side panel. So I'm going to show you what I do, okay? So there's these notches at the top. This is in the pattern piece, okay? So there's these notches. What I did was I drew a line 1 inch from the sides and 1 inch from the top, okay? So now I'm going to use what you might want to get some sort of contact cement for making a Ruthie, because there is some gluing involved. Okay, you can use double-sided tape for this if that's what you like, or any other type of glue that works well for you if you're dealing with vinyl or leather. I'm choosing to use this contact cement because it works really well. It holds everything down really well. So what I do is this is Weldwood contact cement. This just comes from the hardware store, honestly, and it has a little brush applicator. Okay, so if you work with leather, you're familiar with using contact cement. So I'm just going to brush it on. Okay, I'll brush it on, and you don't need a whole lot. Okay. And you really want to make sure you're using this in a ventilated area because it's really smelly, okay? I may even invest in wearing a mask if I do too many of these. But, okay, so I usually keep my fan blowing when I'm doing this. But yeah, so just brush it on. And you notice how I'm brushing it on, and then I'm going to let it sit for a minute, because that's when it really works. You can't expect it to stick right away. Okay, you do let it sit for a second, for a few minutes. Let it get tacky, and then it will really hold well. Okay. So what you see is just it's making the ink from my pen. I used a pen to mark my lines, so it's just making the ink bleed a little bit. Okay. So I'll set that piece aside, let it get a little tacky, and then here's the same thing for my top lining panel. Now I did the corners differently here. The notches are still there, so I marked the notches, but I didn't cut them out like I did for the side panel. So what I do instead is I mark, because I find, you see how you get a nice mitered edge here on this part, because this is going to be the top of your bag. So I wanted it to make sure the corners were crisp. So what I do is here's my 1 inch lines, again, just like I did there, because we're folding the sides and the top down 1/2 inch. Okay, and so I have this square here. I just make sure I connect. I use my ruler just to be a little more precise, but it's not super important. But you can use your ruler. And I just mark from here to here, okay? So I'm just going to mark a line like that, okay? And then I just take my rotary cutter or a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to just cut that off, just like that. And I do the same thing over here, okay? We're just going right over to that side, just like that. Okay. And again, I will add my contact cement here. Okay. And you might want to have a damp cloth next to you in case you get this where you don't want it. And just wipe it off. Or if you get some on your hands. I know some people wear gloves with this. Like I said, a mask may be a good idea if you can't handle the fumes. But you don't need a whole lot. You really don't. So just getting that on. Okay. And you notice I'm putting it on from the top to the bottom, okay, up to where the line is. Because contact cement has to be on both sides in order to work. Like, you can't just do half. It has to have it on both sides, okay? So that can sit for a minute. Now I'm going to come back to this side panel. Okay, so it's sat for a minute. It should be ready to stick pretty good. So I'm going to start. You start with the sides first. So I'm just going to bring this into the line. And you see how well that's sticking? You see? And it's going to stay down. It's not going to be like, sometimes you use double-sided tape and it'll start to come up before you get to using this piece. No, that's going to stay stuck, okay? So I did that side. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay. And I'm just going right up to that 1-inch line. Okay. Right up to the 1-inch line there, okay? That sticks really well, okay? Now, I just fold the top down. Okay, again, meeting that 1-inch line. Really make sure that that sticks down good, okay? So now, I have that. My raw edges are all folded in. I'll also take a roller. I just took this out of my husband's toolbox. So, but they do sell these that are for sewing, but I think he uses this in roofing. So it does the same thing. So I just roll it, make sure that everything's nice and smooth, okay? So now I just set that aside, and now I'll do the same thing for the top lining piece. Sides first, bringing it into that 1-inch line. And the same thing over here on this side. Okay. So, and then I'm going to bring the top down. Now, when I do, what I do is I kind of start here in this corner and I really pinch it in just like that, okay, to line it up and make sure it's nice and tight right there, okay, and really pinch it, okay. So I use my fingernail and just really pinch that in before I start working it across, okay. So that's what I do there. And I'll do the same thing over here. And then I'll go to the center part. So just pinching it in. And this stuff really sticks, so you don't want to make sure you're getting it exactly where you want it to be. Okay, and just really work it into the corner. Okay. Then I'll start to go across here. Okay, so and this is a thinner vinyl. You don't really want to use anything too thick for this. Okay. Okay, so now I have that. Now, if your vinyl has like I'm using a black vinyl, it has a white backing. So if I see any little of that white showing right at the tip, right there, like you see there, I mean, it really doesn't show from the front. Okay, so it's not that big a deal. And it's going to be sewn together with your main exterior, so it's not a big deal. But if you think it may be a concern, you can just put a little dab of edge paint there to cover that if you think it's going to be an issue. Okay, but I'll just roll that out as well. Okay, make sure it's on good. Okay, so now these are done. Okay, so I have 2 of those, and I'll have my 2 side panels. For the lining, I'm just going to put a strip of double-sided tape right here at the top, and I'm just going to fold that because the lining gets folded down a 1/4 inch. So I just make a line at a 1/2 inch mark, and I'm just going to fold just this part here. Okay, and it's going to come down to that line. Okay, so I didn't put my double-sided tape on yet, but that's all I'm going to do for my lining panels. Okay, and then the exterior, I'm going to do just like I did for the top lining. Okay, I've already cut the diagonal, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Starting with the long sides, I'm going to put my contact cement, and I'm just going to fold in, and then I'm going to miter the corners in. Okay, so once that's done, you have all your prep work done. Then you can get ready to start sewing. Okay, so welcome back. We've done our cutting out and we did our prep work, and we're ready to sew. But before we do that, I wanted to say that I forgot a step in the exterior side panels. So I showed you that you would fold in the sides and the top, but I forgot the bottom. So I've gone ahead and done that. You do it the same way. I made a 1 inch line, and then I folded it in a 1/2 inch to meet the line. So make sure you do it on all 4 sides, not just the sides and the top. So I just wanted to make sure that I cleared that up. So now that I have all that done, I'm going to start with my exterior side panels, and you see how we have these notches down at the bottom, right? So we're going to, these are darts, okay? So we're going to fold them together, right sides together, just like you would fold sew a regular dart, okay? And I'll just put a little clip there. And I know it can be kind of thick because this is vinyl, and this vinyl I'm using here, it is a little bit thicker, but I have an industrial machine, so I'm not worried about it. But if you're using a domestic, really pay attention to the materials that you choose, because if it's too thick, you may have an issue sewing through some of the layers. Just on this part, for the most part, there's really not a lot of bulky areas. Okay, so so I've got this clip together. Now I'm going to sew that at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so just like you would sew a regular dart. So making sure that your 1/4 inch comes all the way down here. So you want to catch that. So we're sewing those notches to make our dart here. Okay. So make sure you back stitch at the beginning and end. Okay. So I'm going all the way. Okay. So we have the first one sewn, okay, and you'll see when I turn this out here like that. So you have your dart there, okay. This is what it's going to look like when it's on the bag. So it gives you that 3D, that dimension there, okay. So we're going to do that to both of the exterior side pieces. Okay. Cut my threads. Okay, so that one's done. Now I'll do the next. So I'm sewing this on my Juki 1181 in. I believe I have a size 20 needle in, and I'm using bonded nylon. Okay, I think this is 69 bonded nylon thread. Okay. This particular vinyl, this Kente vinyl, is from Sold Out. And of course, the pattern we're making today is the Ruthie Bag by CJ. Okay. So we have our darts in on our exterior side panel. We can set those aside for a second. Okay. And now we have our lining side panels. Remember I told you you had to fold that top down by 1/4 inch. Okay, so I've done that, and it's just sticking with my double-sided tape, which, you know, waterproof canvas, sometimes it'll stick real good with double-sided tape, but sometimes it doesn't. But I'm not worried about that. So these also have the notches, okay? And they're slightly bigger, but we do it the same way. We're going to sew the darts into our lining side panels. So I'm going to bring those in to meet just like that. And again, I'm going to sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Whoops. Didn't put that over. Okay. So now that one's done, and we'll do the next one. You'll see this bag, it actually comes together pretty fast. So get this one in. Okay. And then we'll do the last dart. And our side panels will be ready for now. Oh gosh, okay, well, a little carried away there. pulled my thread out. I don't know why that's been happening to me lately. Okay, so okay. Uh-oh, what happened? All right, my bobbin thread just broke. Let me pause here and check and see what's going on. Okay, I've got my bobbin straight, so I just finished that up. That dart sewn up. Okay, so now we have our side panels all prepped and ready. So I'm going to set those to the side, move those out the way for now, okay? So now I'm going to move along. I have my top lining panel pieces and also my zipper panels and my zipper, okay? And of course my zipper pull, okay? So you're gonna need these for what we're gonna do next. So I'm gonna move these out the way. Okay, so the first thing I wanna do is mark my centers. Okay, so this is my main lining panel. I'm going, on the short ends, I'm going to mark my centers. So I'll just fold it in half here, and I'm just going to snip, do a little snip to mark the centers. So make sure you mark your midpoints on both sides. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing with my top lining panel. On the raw edge, I'm going to snip. Just remember, we folded down that top edge, so make sure it's the raw edge that you're marking your midpoint, okay? So I'm going to set that aside for a second. So I have my zipper panels here, okay? Each is cut in one long piece here, okay? You can get the measurements from the pattern piece. I'm gonna mark where I'm going to fold in each end. I'm gonna fold in each end by 1/4 inch, okay? So what I do here is I'm just gonna make a 1/2 inch mark on all 4 ends, okay? So then that way I'll fold it in 1/4 inch. Okay. And I'll just place a little piece of 1/8 inch double-sided tape right on the ends to fold it in. Okay. And then once I do that, peel your paper off and just fold it down to meet the line that you drew. Okay. So just like that. So you folded in the raw edges on the ends. Okay. This is a method for making zipper panels that a lot of bag makers are adopting now, where you cut out one whole piece instead of cutting 4 pieces and having an exterior and a lining. This way you just do it with two pieces, two long pieces here. Okay, and it makes it so much easier. Okay, so I have my zipper piece here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, okay, I was going to burn the edge. Where's my lighter? Let me find my lighter. I had it here a second ago. Here we go. And so I'm just going to burn the ends real quick. Make sure nothing's fraying. Okay. All right. So I have my zipper tape and it's cut pretty straight across. So I'll just open up one end. And then what I do is I fold this down like this. And I bring the crease up, the fold up to meet the side here. Just like that. Okay, so it should meet up on the side, and the fold is right up here. It meets the zipper teeth, right? Okay, so I'm making a 90-degree angle. Okay, and then I'll just put a little pin here to hold that in place, just like that. Okay, so I'll do that again over here. So I bend it down here, just bringing the zipper teeth down. And it makes that fold. And now bring the fold in to meet the side. Okay. Just like that. Okay. And put a pin right there to hold it in. Okay. Hold that in place. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some stitching. Okay. So I'm just going to run a stitch line right down the side here just to hold that down. Okay, so and this gives me my 90-degree angle. Okay, and I will remove this pin as I go. Make sure that's nice. Okay, nice and straight. Okay, a back stitch. And as I get closer, I will remove my pin so I'm not sewing over my pin. And back stitch. Okay. So, okay. And then I'll do the same thing for the other side. Let me make sure that fold is tucked up nice against the zipper teeth. Okay. And I'll start over here. I don't know why my thread lately has been doing that, but I'm going to have to figure out what I'm doing to make that happen. Okay, so I never used to have to hold my thread down like that to keep that from happening, but, you know, you change your tension over time, things, you know, get a little different, I guess. So I'm just sewing up the side here real quick, like I did on the other side. Okay. So now my zipper's prepared. My main zipper's prepared to add to my zipper panel. So you'll see I have it. It's pretty even at the top. What I do not add my zipper pull yet. I know some people do, but I do not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark here. So, and I make my mark at about 10, at the 10-inch mark here. And I'll do the same thing over here. because you want to make sure that you're placing your zipper the same place on both sides. So I just kind of line them up like that and make sure that they're marked. They're going to be at the same spot there. Okay. Now, what I like to do is I like to place a piece of 1/8 inch double-sided tape along that edge. I'll do the same thing here. This keeps my zipper nice and straight here. Okay. I will separate my zipper tape. Okay, so on the first one, I'll pull the paper off my double-sided tape, right sides together. So the right side of the zipper to the right side of the zipper panel. And I'll place the teeth. So the top here, where the teeth are folded over, it should line up right where that mark I made. Okay. And then I will just start placing my zipper. Do not stretch your zipper. Just let it just fall right in place and gently press down to adhere it to the double-sided tape. Okay? Just like that. And I'll do the same thing for this one. Lining it up with the mark I made. And I'm just putting edge to edge. Okay. So just like that. Okay? So once I have that in place, you can put another line, double-sided tape if you want, or not, but I think I will. So I'll just place another strip of double-sided tape along the same edge, okay, stopping right before I get to the end of my zipper panel. So pull the paper off there. Now I'm going to take this end and I'm going to fold it over and I'll make sure that it matches up with the other end, just like that. So you want to make sure they're matching up, and then start pressing that down until I get to the top here. Okay. So I put my mark at 10 inches and it leaves like a little like 1/4 inch gap there. So then that way my teeth are not right up to the fold. It's just beneath the fold. So when I go and turn this out, I have some room in there where it's not just bulky and bumped up right up to the fold. So we have that folded there. I'll do the same thing over here. Okay, so matching up those folds. Make sure everything's lined up. And then I just gently press it down as I go. I don't want to stretch anything. Okay. So now that I have that ready, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch down the side, okay, to attach the zipper to the zipper panel. So let's start right here, 1/4 inch. I'm going to make sure we backstitch beginning and end, and I'm just going to sew down. And take your time and make sure your stitches are pretty straight. If you need to, you may need to switch to a zipper foot. When I sew my zippers at a 1/4 inch, I don't need a zipper foot. Okay, so don't go past that fold. Go right up to the fold because you don't want your stitches to go off and onto your zipper. So just go right up to the fold as close as you can and back stitch. So as you can see, I stopped just before I got to the edge of the fold. Okay. And then I repeat on this side. So now what I'll do is I'm just going to snip. So that little 1/4 inch that's open right there, I'm just going to snip that out. Don't snip your stitches, just right around. So just a little curve I cut out right there. So I don't have that bulk when I go and turn this around to the right side. Okay. Now all you have to do is gently fold it out to the right side. Okay, so I push this corner in and I'm just pushing it to expose the zipper. Okay, just like that. And then if you have a little pointy, so I'm using a little metal chopstick and I'm just going to gently push the corner out. Okay, not too much, just gently working it. Okay, until it looks good to me. That looks good. Okay, and then just put your wrong sides together. Make sure your folds are matching up here at the bottom. Okay, and then I'll just clip that down. So I'm just matching these raw edges as I gently tug my zipper out. Because next we're going to top stitch. So you want to make sure this is lined up nice and neat. If you don't feel you need to clip this, you don't have to. I like to clip it because I like to just make sure that it's pulled away really good and that the edges stay even. Okay, so that's one. And then I'll do the same thing over here. Push the corner in, push it out, and then use my chopstick to gently smooth that corner out. Okay, I'm not stabbing it, just gently working it in the corner like that. Okay, lining up these. Make sure these edges, you can trim that down if you want. You can snip these little parts off if you need to. I don't feel I really need to, but if you think your machine's going to have a problem sewing over that, because you will have 4 layers of vinyl right there. So if you feel like that's too thick, you can snip that down a little bit. So you could just take your scissors and just snip, make a little snip like that. And that'll, and you can do it on the other side too. And that'll remove some of the bulk there. Okay. So just, you can also take some smooth pliers like these and you can just press that to kind of compress the bulk here, okay, before you go to top stitch. Okay, so we got all the tricks of the trade here. Okay, so good when everybody is able to share with their learning. We all benefit. So we're going to continue to clip, and I'm gently just pulling my zipper out away so that I can top stitch, okay? So now I'm ready to top stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch around the whole thing here. Okay, closing up the raw edges, basting down the raw edges as I go. So I'm going to increase my stitch length to a 5. I like to start on the raw edge, so I'm not back stitching on the part that will be seen. This part will be in the seam. It will not be seen, so I can back stitch here, okay? And I'm just going at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, basting this down. Then when I get to the fold, make sure I go right to the edge of the fold, and I'm going to come around, taking my time. And then now I'm coming and I'm going to top stitch along the zipper. Okay. Making sure I gently pull to keep my zipper pulled away from the seam. When I get to the top, turn, come across. And then baste back down the raw edge. Okay, so now my first one is complete, and I'm just going to repeat for the second. And then come up, top stitching. Okay, so now I'm heading back down to where I started. Just snip my threads out the way. Okay, so now I have the other half of my zipper. What I like to do is at this time, I like to put my zipper pull on and just make sure everything looks okay before I get it on my bag. So I'm just placing my zipper pull on. Okay, there's different tools used to do this, but I just go by hand here and just make sure everything is looking even. Okay, and then and I just like to make sure that my zipper panel is pretty even at the top and at the bottom. Okay, it looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to pull this off. Now what I do is, oh, how did I miss the raw edge over there? I totally missed that, but it's okay. No problem. It's getting ready to get sewn up anyway. So I'll fold it in half, and I'm going to just mark my midpoint here, snipping that. And I'll do the same thing with this one, just folding it in half. And snip my midpoint there. Okay. So I'm ready to attach it to my top lining panel. So remember, we have the midpoint marked here. So I'll just take one of them. Doesn't matter which one at this point. And I'm going to have right sides together. So make sure it's the right side of the zipper to the right side. Because remember, your vinyl, if you're using, you know, that long piece, this could look like the right side. So you really need to pay attention to the zipper. This is the right side of the zipper, up against the right side of the top lining panel. And I'm going to match those midpoints. And I'm going to clip that on. And I'm just going to base this down with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. So then take the other one, right side to right side. Okay, so now we're just going to base that on. One-eighth inch. So we have that one done, and now we'll do the next one. So now we have those on now. So now what we can do is get ready to place them onto our main lining panel. So again, it doesn't matter which one you put on either end just yet, okay? Just make sure they're right sides together, okay? So you're going to notice that the top lining panel it's 1/4 inch overlap on each end, okay? We also, before you sew the top lining panel on, you need to make some marks here. So you want to mark 1/4 inch on each end of the lining panel, okay? So just like that. So you want a 1/4 inch mark, because we're not going to sew that. We're going to leave that part unsewn, because we need to leave this unsewn in order to attach the side panels to it. So just go ahead and make your marks now. Okay, on each side of the main lining. Okay. So that's our start and stop point. We do not want to sew that part, okay? So now I can go ahead, I'm going to clip this on, finish clipping this on. I'm going to sew from the lining side so I can see my start and stop points, okay? With a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to drop my needle into that 1/4 inch mark I made. Make sure I start in the right spot. Okay. Make sure I'm over there. Okay. Make sure your zipper tail is out of the way. And I will just back stitch and then just sew across until I get to the other 1/4 inch mark. and I'm getting close to the other 1/4 inch mark, I want to slow down, make sure I don't go past it, okay, and then just back stitch. Okay. So it's going to look just like that. So I started at the 1/4 inch mark and I ended at the 1/4 inch mark, okay, and so your zipper panel is going to look like this. When you fold it out, you have your top lining panel here. Now, on the pattern, she does not top stitch here. You can top stitch if you prefer. I do the top stitching. But if not, then run a piece of double-sided tape on the back and just press this down, okay, so it sticks down. But I am going to do some top stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the other side, and then I'll come back and show you how to I do the zipper pocket and the lining pocket. Okay, so where we left off, I was attaching the zipper panels to the top lining and the main lining. So I've done that. Both sides, the zipper panels have been attached. So now we're getting ready to do our zipper pocket and our slip pocket. So this is where you want to pay attention to the orientation of your zippers. So if you notice, okay, so my zipper tails are going, they're on this end. So that means my zipper pull is going to attach from this end and it's going to go from right to left. Okay, so that determines what side I want to have my zipper pocket on. So I'm going to have my zipper pocket on this side of the lining, and I'm going to have my slip pocket on this side of the lining. That way, because I like my zippers to close to the left, so that way my zipper will be on the same, my zipper pulls will open and close on the same side. So I'm going to start on this side with the zipper. So I do something a little different than the pattern. So CJ has a pattern piece for the zipper overlay, and you're supposed to cut that out, and then you fold the raw edges in by a 1/4 inch. I believe it's a 1/4 inch all around, so you won't have any raw edges on your zipper overlay. Okay, if you like to do it that way, it's a beautiful way to do it. This vinyl is a little bit thicker, so I didn't want to do it that way. So what I used is, there's also a placement template so I just used the placement template, and I cut it out that size, so I don't need to fold in my raw edges. It actually ends up being the same size. The placement template ends up being the same size as the zipper facing once you fold in all the raw edges. So I just use that. And I'm okay. I'm not going to edge paint. I'm okay with it being this way, leaving the raw edges. So I place it about 3 inches from the top of the top lining panel. Okay, so I place my ruler. It's at 3 inches right on the edge of the top lining panel. So that's where I'm going to place my zipper. Okay, so I'm just going to take my chalk. I'm going to run a line across there so I know where I'm going to line up my zipper overlay. Okay, and then to find the center, I have the center mark here. So what I do is I just fold this over, and I have my notch there, my midpoint mark there. And so I just make sure it's lined up. And I just kind of just mark my center like that, okay? So now I know that that's my center. So now I know where my center mark is. So that's pretty much how I do it, just to get a quick placement for this, okay? And then here, I can just fold this in half and just kind of make a gentle little crease there. And even if I think I'm not going to be able to see that, I could take my Tandy marking pen and I can just put a little mark right there. So I know that I'm going to line that up, the center mark, and then also with the horizontal mark there. Okay, so it's going to be like that. Okay, so I've already placed some double-sided tape on the back. So I'm just going to pull the paper off. Just going to pull the paper off here. Okay, and I'm going to start with the center mark, get it lined up, and then line it up with my horizontal mark here. And just make sure it's straight. Okay, and I'm just working with this top part here, keeping it straight. Okay, so once I have that straight, then I'll just kind of make sure that my window is straight as well. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and just lay the ruler there and just make sure that I keep it nice and straight, and then press it down. Okay, so everything's pressed down. Okay, so once I have my zipper overlay in place, now I'm just going to sew around the outside, so around the perimeter, going all around and around the curve here. Okay, just the outer part. Okay, do not sew the window yet. So we're just going to do that part here. So I'm going to use my top stitch length, which is a 5. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave some long tails here because I'm going to pull those tails to the back so I have a more professional finish. Okay, and I just start up here at the top. Okay, and I'll just start to sew around. Okay, I'll keep this out the way and I'll just sew around. So when I get to the corner, I'm going to slowly stop. I may have to hand crank to get it right in the corner there where I want it. And then I'm going to leave my needle dropped in and pivot and turn and go down the side. And again over here, making sure I got my needle where I want. And then pivot, turn, and then come. Now we're getting to the curve. So I'm going to go about 1 stitch over, so then I can come around the curve. Okay, staying at 1/8 of an inch, and I take my time going around the curve. Okay, now I'm ready to turn, pivot, and come across here. And before I finish this, I'm just going to lift this up. If you pull on this back thread here, like that, you pull, you'll get a loop. That first loop, just pull it out. That's your loose thread from the front, because we're going to tie that off in the back. Okay? So that way you don't have to back stitch. Okay? And coming around, getting close to finishing up. And now I'm just going to go to where I started and slow down when I get to where I started. And I'm going to make sure my needle falls right in that first hole, that first stitch I made. Okay, now I'll pull the tails. And that tail here, I'm going to pull, this is the tail. I'm going to pull that one and pull that last one to the front. So you should have 4 threads. And now it's a seamless stitch line here. Okay, no back stitching. Okay, so I just take these 4 threads and I'm just going to tie them together. Okay, and I'll do one more. Okay, then I'll snip it. And then I like to burn it. I like to burn the little ends here. So I don't cut them super short. I leave it a little bit of length and then I burn them and then just press that down. Okay. All right. All right. So now we have that done. Now we have to cut this window out. So you can use scissors or you can use, you know, your a utility knife to just get this started. What I do is I just fold it like this. I fold it like this. And with my scissors, I just make a little snip like that. And then I just cut up the middle and carefully get my scissors under there and snip. And do the other side. And snip. Then I turn it over to the back. And then I will start cutting it away from the window. Okay, so like I was saying, we're just going to continue to cut this out away from the window. Okay, don't worry about neatness here because this will not be seen. And run your scissors right along. Be careful that you do not cut your overlay. Okay. Okay. So once you have that all cut out, so it's going to look like that. So you have that cut out. Now I'm going to prepare my zipper pocket. So that's when you want your 2 zipper pocket pieces and your zipper. Okay. So if you notice, one piece is about an inch longer. Okay, so it's about an inch longer than the other. So pay attention to that because this is the piece that you want on top. So it's going to look like that. So you want this one to be on top and this is going to be on the bottom. So I'll show you once we get it. So when I attach my zipper, I don't attach my zipper pulls just yet. I leave it without the zipper pull. Okay, so if you need to clip, you can clip. If not, you know, I just pretty much just hold it down as I go. And my zipper is a bit longer. I like to cut it just a tad bit longer. Okay, and I'm going to just sew this on at 1/4 inch. Okay, you can also use double-sided tape here too if you need to. So I'm just going to sew this on. So the right side of the zipper pocket lining so it's facing up. The zipper is going to go wrong side down onto the right side of the lining piece. Okay, so you should see the right side of your zipper and the right side of your lining. Okay, so I'm just going to sew that on 1/4 inch here, just keeping it nice and straight as I go. Okay, well, as straight as I can. So, okay. So once I have that on, okay. So what I like to do is I will pull my lining away from my zipper, and I do like to top stitch. Okay, some people don't. But me, I do like to top stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my lining back away from the zipper. So now I'm seeing the wrong side of the zipper and the right side of my lining. Okay, so that is the correct way. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to top stitch. You can press here if you need to, but I'm just going to give it a good finger press as I go. And I'm just going to do a 1/8 of an inch top stitching. And this way I make sure that my lining does not creep back up into my zipper and get in the way of my zipper later on. Okay, so now once I have that top stitch, then I'm going to take this piece. Now I'm going to sew the other side of the zipper onto this piece the same exact way. So making sure that the pocket pieces are lined up on the sides, best way here I can. Okay, May not be perfect. My cutting may not be perfect. So don't worry about that. As long as it's lined up for the most part, okay? And the raw edge of the lining should match the top of the zipper here. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that on. Same thing, 1/4 of an inch. Okay. So now I'm going to pull that back and top stitch as well. Making sure I pull it away from the zipper. Okay. Alrighty, so now I have my zipper attached to my lining pieces. Okay, so again, wrong side of the zipper, right side of the lining panels. That's what you want. When you flip it over this way, right side of the zipper, wrong side of the lining panel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some double-sided tape along the top here of my zipper, but I try to keep it away from the sides because you're going to sew the sides up. So you don't want, you know, to have the double-sided tape in the way. So I just kind of pull, you know, just run a piece and to make sure it's not going all the way to the ends, okay? So just like that, one on each side. And put it up far enough away where it doesn't show through that window, because you still have to add it to the window here. So now I have my double-sided tape. Remember, so I want the longer piece at the top. My zipper pull is going to be attached here, and it's going to open and it's going to close to the left. So I'm going to add my zipper pull at this point. Make sure it's on evenly, because if you don't get it on evenly, then you'll have a wonky zipper. Okay, so I got that on, and I'm going to pull. So now my zipper's closing to the left. The longer part is at the top. So that's how I'm going to add it to my lining. So I'm just going to put the overlay over the top of my zipper, and I'm going to make sure that I center it in the window here. And also I want to make sure that the lining is pretty much centered. Like I want to make sure it's not off like that, you know, so get it as centered as possible. Okay, so line that up, make sure it's nice. It looks nice and even in the window. Now I can lift up this end, pull that paper off of my double-sided tape. I'm only going to do this one side. So I can start at the bottom here. Okay, pull that back. Make sure your zipper pull is out of the way. And now I can start pressing it down. And I just try to make sure that it's as even as possible in the window here. Okay, so just eyeball it, make sure it's centered, and then press it down on your double-sided tape. And then lift this up. I'll pull this paper off. Now I can go ahead and lay this side down. Get the zipper pull out the way. Okay. And it looks pretty even there. Make sure it's nice. That looks good to me. See? So now I'm ready to sew around this window. Okay. So I'm going to top stitch around the window. 1/8 inch seam allowance. And my top stitch length is 5. So I'm going to find a place to start, leave those long tails again so you can pull them to the back like we did before. Your pocket should be open. Let me show you that real quick before I start that, okay? On the back side, your pocket should be open, okay? When you get, after you top stitch around the window, then you're going to pull this piece down. Now we see why that piece was longer. So when you pull it down, it matches, okay? So that's why you want to make sure that the longer piece is at the top, okay? So now, let's get ready. So I'm just gonna hold this tail, drop my needle in, get my pull out the way, and I will just start to sew around this window. Okay, go about 1/8 of an inch past the window so that you can turn, okay? And then sew down the short side. If you want, you can even back stitch a little over the zipper part just to make sure it's secure and you don't have any problem later with your zipper opening and closing, okay? And then go down the other long side. Okay, so again, I'm going to lift this up and pull that thread and pull my other thread from the top to the back. Okay, if I can get it, okay. So now it's pulled to the back. I'm going to move my zipper pull out the way again. And I'll just finish up sewing around the window. Again, go about 1/8 of an inch past that window. Pivot and turn up. Okay. And then we're going to meet up where we started. Make sure your needle ends up in the first hole. If you have to hand crank, go ahead, okay? So now, I'm done with that. So now I can go ahead, pull the thread to the back. Okay. So there it is. And then again, I will tie these 4 together, knotting them together. Okay. And I will snip it, give it a little burn, and press that down. This will not be seen later, okay? Now I'm ready to fold the top part down. It meets up nicely, okay? And we can put a couple of clips there to hold it. Okay, on the side. Now we're going to sew our pocket closed, okay? We don't have to leave any opening because we are not birthing this bag. So we can go ahead and completely sew the pocket closed. So go ahead, with the lining up, just pull it back on the side. This is why I don't put the double-sided tape all the way to the end, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew at about 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure back stitching over the zipper. Okay. Let's go down this side. And when I get to the end, leave about 1/4 inch. I'll turn, come down and sew the bottom. And then turn it and then sew up the other side. Pull this back and sew up the other side here. Okay. You see it's a little off there, but that's okay. I'm just going to trim that off. Okay. Back stitch. Okay, so now we have our completed zipper pocket. I'll just trim the little extra zipper off here. Okay, and a little extra I have there, which is not a big deal because you won't see that part. Okay, same thing over here. My threads out the way, and then I'll just trim the extra zipper. Trim the extra zipper tape over here. And then I'll just also burn the ends of my zipper. Make sure I have no unraveling later. Okay. Alrighty. So now we have our zipper pocket all nice and complete. Oh, that looks really good. Okay. So that looks good. We're done with that. So now we're ready to do our slip pocket. We're going to do that on the other side. So our lining is cut all in one piece, as you can see. And that, so it's so good. It's so nice. You don't have a whole lot of pieces there. So our slip pocket is going to go on this side. So, but first we have to get our slip pocket ready. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this, okay? CJ will have you fold right sides together, okay? And then sew. We're going to sew around and then turn it out, okay? Sew the opening close a little bit at the top. Leave an opening, turn it out, and then push your corners out, okay? You can do it that way. What I like to do is I leave it like this, and I'm going to mark my seam allowance. I think it's a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch on each of the long sides. Okay, so a 1/2 inch on that side and a 1/2 inch on this side. I find you get a much cleaner slip pocket this way. Okay, then I'm going to add a little double-sided tape. Okay. On both sides. So instead of sewing this, I'm just going to fold it in, okay? And I'll get a nice crisp edge. I don't have to worry about pushing out any seams, okay? And I'm just going to fold it into that line. Folding it into that line. Okay. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. So then once you have that, okay, then all you have to do is just fold it up, meeting the short side, right? And look how nice and crisp that is. You get a much crisper corner than if you were to sew that together, okay? Make sure it lines up nice. And I just add a couple of clips there for now. Okay, so now that's my slip pocket. So what I'm going to do now is just close up the top here. So just about 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to be covered up. So right across the raw edge, we're going to close that up. Okay. Now we're going to take our slip pocket trim. Okay. So I have my slip pocket trim already somewhere. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is. I moved it over here. Bah! Okay. So I have my slip pocket trim. This is just a 1 inch piece of vinyl. 1 inch wide, that is. Okay. And it's a little bit longer, wider than the 1 inch high, a little bit wider than the slip pocket. Okay. I've drawn a line down the center. I put a strip of double-sided tape on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one piece of the paper off the double-sided tape here. And I'm just going to center my slip pocket. Okay, right in there. And then get it close to the line, but not right on the line. Okay. And just press that down. Then I'm going to pull the other piece off. And I'm just going to fold this down to meet the other end. Okay. And again, if you have, if you don't mind your little raw edges showing on your vinyl, that's fine. If you want to add some, some edge coat on there before you do it, you can do that as well. Okay. So now I have it folded over, nice trim on my slip pocket, and I'm just going to top stitch right along the bottom there of that trim. Okay. So right there, 1/8 of an inch top stitching, back stitch, and then and it should catch the back. That's why I don't butt it all the way up to the line. So making sure that I'm catching the back of the trim. Okay, so you see I have the back of the trim is covered. That part really won't be seen. So, and then I just trim the excess off. Okay, so just follow right along the side of the slip pocket. And then trim that excess off. I'll burn these little threads just in case. Since I just cut it a little, just making sure they don't come loose. Okay, so now I'm ready to add my slip pocket onto my lining. So this is the end we're working on. We're going to attach it at 3 inches from the top lining panel, just like we did the zipper pocket. I'm going to run a line with my chalk pencil. And then I find the center much the same way I did before. This just to get a basic idea of my center. Okay. So I know that's about the center there. And then to find the center of my slip pocket, I'll just fold this. You can measure and check and make sure, but I just fold it, get a little seam there. Okay, and I can see that there. And so I line it up with the line I made, making sure it's pretty centered. Okay. And so now I'm going to sew down this side, across the bottom, and up this side. To hold it in place so it doesn't move. I don't like pins too much. So I find that this masking tape works really well to hold it down until you get to it. Well, I'm going to start on this side. So, and see, masking tape just pulls right off. So you don't have to worry about any sticky residue. Okay. So I just kind of put it on one side just to hold it down. so it doesn't move. Okay, so just do that. Now I'm going to move it over under the machine, and like I said, I'm going to top stitch down the side, the bottom, and back up, making sure I back stitch at the tops here really well. Okay, so starting here, I'm going to back stitch a few times, and then now I'm just going to go ahead and just 1/8 of an inch. If you want to back stitch down here at the corner, you can. I usually don't, and I never really have a problem. If you wanted to split the pocket in half, you can do that, but I think I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it the size it is, okay? And I did kind of move that just a little bit, but that's okay. Hey, you know, we are not machines. We are people. So, you know, that's the whole beauty of us making our own things. They don't have to be super perfect, you know. It's just, we just want it to look nice. And we want to be able to make it the way we want it, okay? So we're coming up to the top. We're going to back stitch when we get up here. Okay, so now we have our beautiful slip pocket. We want to cut these threads. Okay, make sure I burn a little bit here to make sure my threads are all nice. Okay, so after I make my attach my slip pocket, I like to add a couple of rivets right here in the corner. So I don't really mark it. I just go ahead and with my hole punch here, I'm gonna add right in the corner, but not on top of my stitching. Okay, so I'll add a punch there, and then one on the other side. Okay, and a punch there. Okay. So I just put a punch there in the corners. Okay, that just gives it a little more security, because I'm going to add rivets, because when you're in and out of your pocket, these corners, they'll lift eventually if you don't have a little more security there. So I also take a little, I keep these little pieces of Peltex. So I'm just going to cut, a couple of little squares of Peltex. Okay. Just like that. And I'm going to punch a hole there. And then this is going to go on the back of my rivet, so that it's just a lot more support for your pocket. Okay. So put that through there, through the back. Add my cap. Okay. The same over here. Add my cap. Okay. And I'll press that on. Okay. So now I have a complete lining here with my zipper pocket on one side and my slip pocket on the other side. So if you can imagine how that's going to come together, and that's going to look like that. Okay, so the lining, the neck, well, I have almost a complete lining, because next we have to add the sides, the side panels. So to do that, we need to find the center here, this way. So I'm going to line this up like that. And I'm going to snip here from my center, and I'll do the same thing on this side. Okay, so now I have my midpoints there. Okay, now I'm going to grab my lining side panels. Okay, and remember, my double-sided tape is trying to come off here, so I'll just add that back later. Okay, so I'm also going to find the center here at the bottom. Okay, so I match those little darts up to get the center. Bringing my darts together here, and I'm just going to snip the center here. Okay, so I can't remember where I got this 1/8 inch double-sided tape. I usually get my double-sided tape from Waywack, but I think the 1/8 inch I got somewhere else, and it's not very strong at all. So you know, but I ran out of the 1/4 inch from Waywack, and so I'm waiting to get some more, and so I'm kind of stuck with this one right now. So I really wish I could remember where I got it from, so I don't make the mistake of getting it again. This Waywack is strong, so I prefer that one. And I know there's others that people say they really like, but I do like to get it from Waywack. It always comes really fast, and you know, you get a big roll. And I just usually do not let myself run out of double-sided tape. But I thought I had some in a box around here, and I didn't. I had 1/2 inch, but I didn't have a 1/4 inch. So, okay, so now that my side panels are all back in shape, okay, so now we're ready to attach it to our main lining. So I'm going to set this one aside and start over here. So remember, we have our midpoints marked. So I'm just going to start by placing one right here at the midpoint mark here. Okay. And I'll put a couple of clips here, one on each side, just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to just walk this right on over to the side. Remember, we left that 1/4 inch unsewn? Well, that's going to match right up with the side panel there, okay? And we're just going to clip that there. And I'll add a couple more clips. I really like to use these binder clips. They can be a little cumbersome when you sew in tight spaces, but I think they hold better, especially when they open up, and I've had them open up and get caught up under my machine. So you have to be careful. And then I'll walk this side over, and I'll match it up to this side. We're just attaching this to the lining, okay? We do not want to sew into that top lining panel. Okay, so it should all match up really well. Okay, so I'm just clipping. I like to move my dart over to one side. I move the lining dart over to the outside. Okay. So instead of moving them to the inside of the center, I move it to the outside. I don't think it really matters which way you do it, but that's just where I do. Just as long as it's pressed over to one side. Okay, so, and it's consistent. Like, don't press one to the center and then one to the outside. Try to do them both to the same, you know. Okay, so I have one side clipped on. Now I'm ready. I'll go ahead and sew this one side on. Okay, so what I do is, because you have to make sure you do not want to sew through this top lining panel. It's very important that you leave that out of the way. So what I do is I sew. So I have the top here facing me. I fold this out of the way. And I'm just going to sew just maybe like an inch or so. So start here about an inch down at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to sew up. So that way I can clearly see where my top lining panel is. And I'm not going to sew over it. Okay. And I'm going to sew as close to that lining panel as I can. Back stitching. Okay. So that's what I'll do. And it's just to make sure that I don't sew over that top lining, because it is such a small seam allowance. Okay. So now I have that done. Now I'm going to go over to this side. And I'll fold this side out, flipping it over this way. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing. About an inch away or so, I'm going to start sewing. Make sure you backstitch. And I'll sew up to the top there, making sure I do not sew over that top line. Okay. Okay. So now I'm free to go. Don't have to worry about that part. Now I can just go ahead and sew my side panel on with no worries. Okay, so I'm going to start. I like to have my side panel going toward the inside like this and sewing like this way. Okay. And start where I left off here. So overlapping those stitches a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to back stitch. Now I'm just going at 1/4 inch. Okay. Moving my clips as I go. Okay. And then making sure that I go around this curve. It all comes together so well here, okay? This lines up really well. Okay, making sure everything stays flat as you go around the curve, that you don't have any puckers. Get your hand under there. Make sure you smooth it all out. This is why I like to flatten my darts this way, because I feel like it goes along with how I'm sewing it. Okay. So back up to where I started here, overlapping a little bit on the stitches, back stitch there. Okay. So now I have my one side of my side panel on. So you look inside here and you see it's looking pretty. Okay, so now I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach this second side, and then I'll be back to show you the next steps. Okay, so we're almost getting to the point where we're going to have to add our exterior to our lining. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and add my my label and my purse feet to my main exterior piece. Okay, so there's CJ provides a bottom guide where you for placing your bag feet. So it has the midpoint. You're going to lay the midpoint here. And what I didn't do here is you have to have your center here too. Okay, so I know how wide this is, so I'm gonna just go ahead and mark my center line here, because you need that center line in order to be able to use this guide piece. Okay, so I just need to have my center mark there. Okay, so you're going to lay this on. This will be your fold here, and mark the center, and you lay that there, and then it has the holes here for you to mark where your back feet go. Okay, so just like that. So right there, and then you flip it over and you place that. This again, this will be the fold line. Because when you cut it, you would cut it on the fold like that. Okay. So lining it up with the center and then the center here. Okay. And mark where your back feet go. Okay. So now I'll be ready to put my bag feet here. And then as far as your label, now I did some applique on this one. So I want, so I'm going to probably put my label down here somewhere. So it all depends. Like you might want to have your label up 2 or 3 inches from, the bottom, or wherever you want to put your label. You might want to have it at the top, but I'm just going to just eyeball it and put my label. So let me get my pieces from my label. Okay. And I think it would look good, like about right, maybe like about like that. I think that's where I want my label, maybe about right there. Okay. So I'm just going to take the washer here, and just, it doesn't have to be perfect. I can put it where I want to put it. So I'm just going to mark where I'm going to put my holes for my prongs there. Okay, so I just want to show you that, like, how do you mark for your bag feet, and there's no particular placement for your label, so you just decide where you want your label. Just understand that your bag, it's about a 5-inch base. So wherever you put your label, just keep that in mind, that you don't want to put it too far down. So you might want to wait and put it together a little bit to see where you want your label to go. Okay. Okay, I'm back after I have applied my bag feet and my label. So my exterior is ready when I'm ready to get it all sewn up. So I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to grab my lining again. Okay. And so if you remember, we have our sides on. Everything's all done with our lining. Okay. So now I'm ready to attach my exterior sides, my exterior side panels. So there's some things we have to do first. So the exterior side panel is going to be attached to the lining side panel, and it's going to be sewn here, but just right there in the middle. Okay, we're going to top stitch across there and attach it to the lining like that. So we need to add, okay, so I'm sorry, the dog started barking as soon as my husband came home from work. So now that I got him quiet. So let me pick back up. I was saying we're only sewing the exterior side panel to the lining side panel right here in the middle. We're going to leave a 1/2 inch open here on the side. So I need to do a little bit of top stitching on that half an inch on each side. So that way it's not left without any top stitching there. So I'm just going to make a mark half inch in from the sides, so I know where to start and stop my top stitching. So I'm going to do that on both of the exterior side panels here. So one on this side and then on this side here. Okay. So I am literally going to just be top stitching from here to here, from here to here on both. Okay. So it's a very short length of top stitching. Okay. But if you don't do this, then that little part will not have any. So just 1/8 of an inch top stitch. Okay. And you can choose to bring your stitches to the back if you want, but I'm not going to do that. It's just such a small area. I'm just going to back stitch and come right. And you don't want to go too fast because it is a short area. Right, so just a little back stitching there. And I got that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going to start at the 1/2 inch mark. Okay, and I'm going to be careful that I don't go off and back stitch. Okay, so do that. Okay, so it'll look like that. So you'll have a little top stitching here right on the ends, and I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Okay, and I'll just go right on across here. Okay. So I only have to cut my thread once. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so now I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Make sure I don't have any tails hanging. Okay. All right, so now that that's done, now we're ready to get ready to add it to our lining. So another thing before we do that, I want to mark the centers here on the exterior, and you want to mark it on the outside. Okay, so just get that and just make a little mark with whatever marking tool. Do remember, but it has to be one that can be removed later. Okay, because you are marking the outside. Okay, and I'm going to do this side and do that. Okay, so I have that center mark there, and I already have the centers marked on my, well, this doesn't matter. What I meant to say is you want to mark the centers here because this is the exterior. So what I do here, this is what I do here. I mark it. This one can be marked on the inside. Okay. So I just put a little mark there. So I have my center mark here. And you also have the line from that I made earlier. So I can just mark it and just make sure. Okay, so I have my centers marked there. So I'm going to put this back aside here. Grab my lining again. Okay. So now, let me clip these zipper ends these zipper tails out of the way so they don't interfere with what we're doing next. Okay, so this is why we leave this 1/4 inch open here, because your side panel, it's going to line up with the lining side, just like that. And it's going to overlap and meet the end of your top lining panel. So you see how you have that there? And then you're going to place your clip to hold that. Go over to the other side. Lay it flat, and it will reach over here to this side, okay? So just like that. So it overlaps right onto the top lining panel. Okay? And then clip that. So now, all we need to do is just clip this part to the lining. Make sure the lining is not peeking up above, but it's just a pinch below. Just a tiny pinch below. And I'm going to clip that in place. Okay. Okay. Now, if you want to, have a different color bobbin thread in there, if you don't want the contrasting thread on your lining, then you might want to think about that. But otherwise, I don't care. I don't mind the black thread on my lining. So, now what I'm going to do, I just need to drop this down just a tad bit. Oh, I forgot to put my phone on silent. Okay. So just drop that down just a little bit. Okay, so this is what I do. I actually top stitch it from the lining side. And the reason I do that is because I can see where I want to start and stop. I want to start right there at the seam, right in there at the seam, right there. And then I'm going to, with a 1/8 inch seam allowance, I'm going to top stitch right across over until I get to this seam. Okay, and it should overlap or come right to where our top stitching started and stopped on the outside there. All right, so if you think your top stitching won't look good under the bottom here, then you can definitely do it from this angle and just start where you left off here. Wherever that stitching that you put on, just drop your needle there and then stitch across. But I find it easier to do it this way. So that's the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to move this clip and I'm going to get my foot under there and pull this back the best I can. Oh, it's in the way. This clip is in the way. Once you get this in place, you can remove those clips on the side. I just do that just to make sure that I'm placing this in the right place, in the right spot. So let's move that out of the way. Okay, so now I go across here and I'm going to get my needle right into that seam. Right into the seam right there. Okay. Make sure I hold these threads so I don't get any nesting underneath. Okay. And very slowly, I'm going to start a couple of stitches forward. And I'll do a couple of stitches backwards. And then now I can go across. Okay. So I'm just getting my top stitching. Attaching the exterior side to the lining side. Okay, now I'm almost to the next seam here. Keeping everything lined up. And I'm going to drop my needle down in that seam. And then I'm going to back stitch a couple of stitches. And then come back. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay. Not too difficult at all. So when I look at the front, okay, I have my top stitching here, and let me see here. I see I could have probably went one more stitch over. I could have went one more stitch over there. Okay, so let me just go one more. I just want to do one more stitch there, just to make sure it meets. I probably just didn't go over far enough, that's all. So let me just go one more. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay, so I'm going to just burn that a little there. Make sure everything's in. So now we have the side attached, that side. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just burn those little tails a little bit there. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. And just make sure that lining is folded down. Okay, so I'm just going to line up the side. This is just purely for placement for right now. Just lining up my sides, making sure it fits right. And then I can clip the center. Clip the center here. Okay. Now I can just remove these here and get them out the way. So now I'm going to open that up. Get it, make sure it's all flat underneath. Make sure my top lining panel's out of the way. Okay. Everything's lined up. Now I can drop my needle in that seam. And so couple stitches going. Go back, back stitch. Okay. Get over here. Make sure everything lining up. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm okay with that. Okay, so I've got my stitches in place here. I always just light my, because the bonded nylon, you know, I just always make sure I just light when I cut it. Okay, so now my sides are on. Looking kind of funny at this point, right? So now we're ready to get our main exterior sewn on. Okay, so this, pay attention to how your bag is oriented. Okay, the zipper pockets here, the slip pockets here. When I open my bag, I like to look, when I look at the front of the bag, I like to see the zipper, right? So this is the front of my bag. So I'm going to attach this side to this side, and then this wraps around and attaches that way. So it's going to look like that. And you can see, and you will see your zipper, right? So we're going to start lining up the top edge here. So our corners, our little mitered corners, get those lined up nicely. And I'll just add a clip here. Okay. And I like to do all my corners. on my top corners first. Make sure they're lined up nicely. Okay. And I will do the same thing on this side. Okay. That clipped. And this side clipped. Okay. And if you're thinking like, well, it's looking kind of floppy. Well, remember, we're going to add our stabilizer. So it's going to have some structure. Okay, you can already see, because I'm using waterproof canvas, you can already kind of see that structure coming together, right? Okay, so now we can start clipping our exterior side together. See how that fits right in there? So what I like to do is I mark those centers. Remember, I marked the center and I marked it down here. So I like to line that up first. Okay. I'll get that lined up and clip. Okay. And I'll just add one on each side. Okay. And now up here, you're going to kind of push this over like this. So it's kind of flat. And you see how it overlaps real nice, that side pocket? The side panel, it overlaps that real nice and everything lines up. That's why we kept those seam allowances open. So everything lays nicely here, okay? And you don't have too much bulk there. Okay. So I'm gonna keep clipping. I'll go around here and I'll do this side too. Just make sure everything's laying nicely. It helps if you get it all like that. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to continue to clip this together. Clip this. Okay. Now, remember our darts. You see those darts? And this is vinyl. So it can get a little thick right there. So what I try to do is, let me make sure I did it here. See, I didn't do this one. I try to snip that a little in there. Just right up to the stitching. Just a little snip, okay? You're not going to get much because it's such a, it's only a 1/4 inch seam allowance you use. But just snip that just so it opens up a little. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to open this up just a little, just enough, okay? And really get that in there and lay it as flat as I can, okay? And then I'll put a clip in there to hold that, okay? Okay, so just kind of make sure. And just add a clip there and make sure everything is laying as smoothly as possible. And I'll do the same thing over here. Just opening up that darts just a little bit so I can get it in there. Okay. And just make some adjustments here, little adjustments. Make sure everything goes in there well. There we go. All right. So now we have that side clipped in. Oh, look how that's looking. Ooh, that's good. That's looking good. I love the way that looks. I love this Kente vinyl. This is one of my favorite prints. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch from the top. We're going to go all the way around and then come back up this side. Okay, so 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay. So making sure everything stays lined up well. And you don't want this, you don't want these top corners to look bad. Okay, so drop my needle down there. Okay, hold that, hold my stitches. I'm going to take a couple of stitches forward, and I'm going to take a couple of stitches back, and I'm going to go for it. Okay, so now when I get to this part where the side panel meets the top lining, so yeah, you have a little bit of bulk there, just a little. So I do go over that. I do back stitch over that just a little bit, okay, since it's just a little bulk there. Okay, and then now I'll just keep going around. You don't want that side panel to stick out past the exterior. So I can see about 1/16 of an inch just kind of poking out from the exterior. And that's good. Okay, so I'm coming around to the curve. You want to take your time, lift up, and kind of turn it, and keep everything tucked under and smooth. Okay, we're getting to that dart too. So I just want to make sure that I don't have that dart sticking out. So I just take my time here. So I'm going to ease up to the dart. Okay, and turn it here. I get my stiletto out, and I'm going to make sure that that dart is poked underneath and staying tucked under. Okay, and so taking it slow. Okay, coming around. Get that other side of the dart tucked under. No, do not rush this part. Okay, just take your time, because this is the exterior of your bag. So any mistakes will show. Okay, make sure that my stitches are looking decent. Okay, and just keep going around. Okay, so I'm coming around to the other corner, the other curve, and the dart. So I'm just tucking the bag up underneath, making sure it stays smooth underneath. And when I get ready to get close to that dart, I'm going to pull out my stiletto and make sure it's tucked underneath. Getting it good and tight under there. Okay. There we go. Hold it down. There we go. There. So I'm past the dart now. And I want to make sure everything is still staying lined up. So just smoothing everything out. Okay. And turning around the curve. And so now I'm getting close to this, to the side panel where it's meeting up there. Get just a little bit of bulk there. So I am going to do a little back stitching. Okay. And getting to the top. Okay, careful. Back stitch. And there we go. So So that's on there. Yes, that is on there. And that looks good. Get rid of these threads. That looks so good. Yes, it does. And these darts get tucked in like that. Okay. And that little dart tried to poke out right there, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll beat him into submission. Okay, but it looks good. It looks good. Okay. Woo! So from the outside, the top stitching looks great. Okay. So now I'm going to repeat on the second side. Then we'll come back and I'll show you how I do the rolled handles. Okay, that was my son calling to be picked up from school. Everybody else is home and he had to stay later, and I totally forgot that he was there. So good thing my husband's here to go get him. But anyway, so back to this. I have my strip ready, my strap piece ready. So this is the tubing. I showed you the label. So 1/4 inch is what I use. Okay, and it fits nicely within the strap to make a nice rolled handle. So how I get the tubing inside here. Now, every vinyl, I've made a few of these, and every vinyl is a little different. Some, it slides right in with no problem. Others, I have to coerce it just a little bit. This one, I found after making this one, it worked better when I added a little bit of oil to the tubing. So I'm going to do that. But first thing, what I do is I take my metal chopstick and I put it into the tube here, into the strap piece. And I just sort of open up the channel first. So I'm just sort of opening up that channel, okay? I find this helps before I put the tube in. So I just kind of opening it up a little bit there, okay? My daughter's saying something to me.
I covered the camera for a second.
Oh my gosh, she covered the camera. Oh my goodness.
It was just for a second.
Okay, it's okay, Jab. I know, you're getting tired. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'll start feeding the tubing in. Okay, feed it in. And if I get any resistance, see, it pretty much will slide in, but if I do start feeling a little resistance, like I feel this vinyl is just, it's a little grainy, so it's not as smooth. I actually will just take a little bit of my Juki oil and just put a little bit along the tubing, just a little bit, okay? And I just smooth it down, the tubing. And I think, I find that the Juki oil, or if you're sewing machine oil, whatever oil you have, will work good. And then I find that it just really helps it. It helps it to slide in. Okay. Fairly easy. Okay. And when it gets short like that, I just take my little pliers and I'll just feed it in the rest of the way here. See? That was painless. Okay. And I just try to make sure that it's pretty much starting and ending around the same spot. So, there's your rolled handles, right? Pretty simple, right? So now that the roll handles are done, I can set that aside for a minute. And now I'm ready to add my stabilizer. Okay. So let me grab my stabilizer. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my stabilizer piece. Okay. So it goes in pretty easily. I mean, you have this wide opening on both ends. So we're literally just going to slide it in. Okay. Well, it is, sorry if this is looking crazy, but once you get it going, then it gets easier. So I just start to slide it down in there. So when I get it about that far, I reach in onto the other side and I just start to pull it from the other side. Just like that. And I'll pull it up. Okay. So it's coming up and around the lining. So the lining might start to push up a little, but that's okay. Okay. There we go. And then you will have to get it all pushed down. Okay. So find what works for you. But this is the way I've been doing it. Pushing it. Okay. Pull it some more. Pushing it. And I'll push down into the center with my hand and just start working it down. And I can feel the base where I have the Decaville. So I know where I want that to sit. Okay, and it's not there yet. So just keep sliding it down. And just press down. Okay. Till you feel it settle in where you want. Okay, so now I went a little too far that way. Okay. So there we go. And make sure. And if you need to trim any, you can. But so far, I haven't had to do that. Okay, so make sure. So what I do, once I get it about this far, what I do is I get it down. You really want to make sure that it's maybe like a little less than, or a little more than 1/8 of an inch below the top of your exterior. Because you don't want it peeking through. Because you're going to top stitch this in place. You're going to top stitch later. But what I do is I get it in place on one side. Where I want it. Okay? About where I want it. And so I'm clipping it, I'm holding it in place, making sure that it's not peeking past the exterior. And I'm just going to do this here. Get it all clipped. Okay, take your time and get this right, because this is where you're shaping up your bag. This is, you're getting close to the end here. Okay, so now that I have that, you see that structure? Oh, that's so nice. Make sure that the stabilizer is out of the way of the sides, because you want to make sure that the sides are still able to be concave like that. So make sure it's tucked down nice and out of the way. Okay, flat and flush with the bottom of the bag. Okay, and then that way, and then also up against the sides, pressed into the corners. There you go. Now that's looking great. Make sure it's into the seams and into the corners of the bag. Okay. This part takes a little finagling to make sure everything is right. This is not a quick, like whoop whoop. And you really got to make sure that you got this, you have that stabilizer in there, nice and smooth. So now I can start to tell it's getting in there, it's getting into the seams. Okay, and I got it nice. Okay. Oh, that looks good. It's laying flat. Oh, look at that. Look at that shape. Look at that shape. And this vinyl, this is Rex vinyl from Emmeline. And it is very soft vinyl. And so, and look at the structure it gets with this bag. That looks really good. Okay. And you can see the other side is below the exterior. So it's nice. That's why I hold it on one end and then work it. That way this is not moving, it's not shifting. It's where I want it to be. Okay, so now I know my stabilizer is good. It's where I want it to be. Now I can remove these clips because I don't want them on there too long so they indent my vinyl. Okay, so here's the part that you may like or not. Okay. At first I thought, I just won't do that because I don't like glue. But I did a couple without the glue and I find that it is better with the glue. Because if you look inside the bag, you can see the lining sits really good. But I feel like it's much better when you glue everything. So CJ's instructions are to glue. You're going to glue the exterior to the stabilizer, and you're also going to glue it to the lining part as well. So this is where you have to get your contact cement out, and I'm going to actually start applying the glue. I do the lining part first, so I'm going to start applying it to the stabilizer and the lining and get that glued down. I'll do the exterior after. So I'm going to do that off camera because this is a process. It is a lot of fumes, and my daughter doesn't like to smell it. So I'm going to do that. So again, but I will show you. So what I do is I just open it up and I start to brush the glue on. I'll brush it onto the stabilizer, and then I flip it over and I brush it onto the back of my lining. Okay, but I don't go all the way up to the top because we still have to add the rolled handles. So I'll do that after I get all this glued. This right here on the top lining panel, I don't add any glue there just yet. Okay, and then once I get the glue on there, I just lay it flat like this, and then I just smooth it and just press the lining down. Okay, then I will do the same thing for the exterior. I'll add glue here and I'll add the glue here, and then but not all the way up to the top, and then I'll press it down as smoothly as I can. Then we'll mark the placement for the handles, and then we'll add more glue to the top once we get ready to install the handles. So we'll leave off right there. I'll add the glue, and then I'll come back when we're ready to install the handles. Alrighty, so I have glued about as much as I can glue right now. Okay, so I am ready to get these handles on. So what I've done is I've marked the centers here on each side. So I have my center mark. Okay, so the pattern comes with this handle guide. So what you do is you're going to lay the guide. So this will be the fold, right? So lay the guide on the fold, and then mark this line here. Okay, and I'm going to flip it around. And I'm going to mark it over here. Okay. And that's where your rolled handles or your straps, whatever you chose, that's where they're going to line up. Okay. And so I'll do the same thing over here. Just make a mark. And remember, mark with something that you know that you can remove easily. Okay. So I mark there. This is also the point where you would add your strap connectors if you chose to do a crossbody strap. So you would place your handles and then your connector. One would go on this side, and then the other would go on the other side. So your strap would connect across the bag like that, okay? But I'm not doing the strap connector. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach. So at this point, I will get ready. This is what I would do. So I know my handle's gonna go like that, right? So I can go ahead and finish adding the glue. I use so much glue on this set. I'm running low on glue, so I might not have a whole lot left. But I just run a little glue here. Oops, don't run it on the top of your bag though. But the good thing about this contact cement is it just kind of rolls right on off and wipes right off. So trust me, I know. So okay, so next time I'm gonna get a bigger can of this glue. Okay, so I'm just going to just get some right here on the top. Okay. And also here on the back side here. And I'm not going onto where the vinyl has been folded over. I'm just staying on the back side here, okay? It doesn't take a lot of this cement to hold, okay? So now once I have that on, I'll be ready to slide my handles on. So with CJ, she puts a piece of double-sided tape back there and folds it in like this, okay? And it's going to go in about 1 inch. So if you want to make your 1 inch mark, you can. So I will make my 1 inch mark. So I know that they're going in the same amount. So I'm going to just slide that right in on the side of my mark, on the outside of my mark. Okay, just like that. And I do like to leave this open a little. Okay. And I'm going to slide that in to my mark, to my 1 inch mark there, just like that. Okay. And I just add a clip to each side just to kind of hold it in place. You could also put a piece of double-sided tape there if you want to hold it down that way. Okay. And then I'm going to slide the other side in to that 1 inch mark, pressing it in place like that. And then add my clip to each side. Okay. Just like that. Okay, so ooh, I love this pattern. I really do. I really do love it. Okay. I've only made like 50 of them. Okay, so I probably could have glued it a little better in certain spots, but I'm running low on glue, so but it's gonna be fine. I'll probably be keeping this one, so okay. So now all you need to do is just top stitch right across there. Okay, so before I add the other handle, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So I top stitch from the inside. because it's easier. The bag is really stiff, and it's just easier for me that way. So I'm going to replace my bobbin. Just make sure I have a fresh bobbin in there before I get started. I had just put a new needle in before I started this process, so I should be good on that. So I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch, just being very careful. And if I see any that I got any glue anywhere, also some hand sanitizer, got it off one bag that I had got a little glue on. So okay, so I'm going to start right there in that corner and hold these ends because I don't want any nesting underneath. Okay, and start off. And I do find that you will have a glue smell on your bag. It goes away after a couple of days. So if you're making this for anybody, you might want to like air it out for a couple of days before you send it out. Okay, that's if you're using this contact cement like I am. If you use something else that doesn't have such a odor, then you'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going over my handle. Okay. And I'm just taking my time, making sure I'm nice and neat. Okay. Keep going. All right, so I made it across. Okay, I made it across there. All right, oh, that's looking good. Look at that. Now, there's only that one row of stitching going across your handles. Now, here's the thing. If you think it's secured enough, it's fine. No problem. But here's a suggestion. If you think, oh, I don't like that. It's just that one row of stitching and I want something a little more secure. I mean, you could definitely do another little row of stitching underneath, or you can add a rivet on each one of these right there. And that'll give it a little extra little something right there. So you have some options there if you're not feeling comfortable with just leaving it like that. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and attach my other handle real quick. I'm getting a little with this glue. Okay. Like I said, I'm running pretty low on the glue. Okay. So it's just enough to finish this up. So I'm adding glue to the stabilizer. And then I'm also going to add a little to the exterior. Okay. That's good for now. Okay. I'm just so not big on glue, but you do need it for this bag. Okay. So I'm going to add my other handle. Let me mark my 1 inch. So I know where they go. 1 inch there. And 1 inch there. Okay. So get them in. just like I did the other. And it's sliding in between the exterior and the stabilizer. Okay, just make sure that you don't put it between the lining and the stabilizer. So we're putting it in between the exterior and the stabilizer. Okay. Okay. And I went the wrong end. Okay. Get it together, Kelly. Get it together. The glue got me. The glue got me goofy. Okay. Got my daughter goofy too. Okay. Okay, so there. Get it in there. Make sure it's even on both sides. Okay, before I sew this side, I just like to make sure that they look nice and even. Okay, and there we go. Make sure here. Telling you, nobody would believe that you made a bag like this. Like, it looks so professional when you're done. And you know, you made it with your own little hands, right? Okay, so now I'm going to top stitch that side down. And we are just about done. We're just going to have to put our zipper pull on and our zipper end. And then we are just like going to go celebrate and watch the Laker game. I think the Lakers are playing tonight. So okay, so we're going across. Whew. That glue can get really noxious when you're this close up. I need to get a mask. Okay. Hey, we almost to the finish line. Woo-hoo. Every one of these I make, I just go, oh my God, like, I want to keep it. I want to keep it. I don't want to give it up. I'm just going to carry like all of them at one time. I'm just going to go out and carry them all. Okay. All right. All right. There we go. Make sure you don't burn too crazy and burn your bag up. Okay. Or set yourself on fire with all the glue that's in this right now. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe these little marks off. What I do is I just take a little bit of, well, if it's over here I do, but if not, I usually just take a little bit of hand sanitizer to wipe it off. But water will do. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, let me just even a little dab of this. Okay, let's see. But those little marks come off easily. They come off easy with a little water, a little hand sanitizer. I usually keep a bottle of hand sanitizer at my station, so it usually just comes right off. All right, so get the little markies off. Okay. I have a couple of marks here. Just gonna clean it all up best I can for right now. Okay, I'll finish getting that off later. Okay, so now that is looking fabulous. So these tails are pretty long. I'm gonna put my zipper pull on. Okay. Put my zipper pull on. And then I'm going to trim this zipper down. I like to keep my zipper a little long at first. And then I trim it down. So, okay. So get my zipper pull lined up. And on here. There we go. And zip it on up. Oh, wee. That looks so nice. I'm so excited. Okay. So I'm just going to trim that down. I cut about 2 inches off. Okay. And now I'm going to burn that. And I will add my zipper in if I remember where I put it. Okay. Oh, here we go. Don't go away from me. Okay. Got my little screw. That, get my little screw out. Okay. Don't lose that screw, okay? And get my screwdriver. Okay. All right, so you can add a little glue here if you want, but I think I'm all glued out. So I'm just going to put my zipper end on. So just fold the ends over each other. They overlap. Slide your zipper end on. Okay. Just like that. And then what I do is I take my stiletto and I just poke a little hole. Make sure it goes through. Okay. And then now I'm ready. You can put a little glue on your screw too if you want. I've never had one fall off without gluing it, but okay, so just get that on till it's tight. Okay. And that is that. Wow, look at that. Oh, and I love the road handles. Oh, it looks so nice. And then look at that. Look at the zipper facing, and it opens up nicely to get a nice lining. You got your purse feet on the bottom. You got our label, which I could have put up a little bit higher, but it's okay. Okay, it's nice. I love it. And another thing you could do is, I did one like that. Let me show you. I grabbed the one with the corners on it for me, Jazz. And you can't grab it? I'll grab it. She's like, how do I film and grab it, Mama? Okay, so I'll grab it. Okay, so this is another option here. You can put these little decorative corners on. If, maybe your corners didn't come out as great as you like, this is a good way to hide that, That wasn't the case with this one, but I just thought it was nice to show that you could put these little corners on there. So I might see if I have some gold ones to put on this one. But yeah. Well, that's it. This is the Ruthie Bag by CJ. And she is an up-and-coming designer, and she's got some great patterns. So look out for her. Thank you for watching. I'm going to have the pattern linked in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm new at this, so don't be giving me no nasty comments, because I already know that I can do better. But I do love positive feedback. So thank you for watching.